June 18. 64. The conflagration of Rome, attributed by Nero to the Christians, which was the ostensible cause of the first persecution. See 24th June. 741. Leo III Isaurian, Emperor of Constantinople, died. He was the son of a cobbler, and disgraced the imperial dignity by acts of barbarity and tyranny. He was the enemy of learning and learned men, and set fire to the valuable library of his capital, by which 30,000 volumes were destroyed, besides many of the choicest paintings and medals. 1053. Battle of Civitella. The forces of the Pope, Leo IX, routed by Robert Guiscard, the Norman. 1314. Edward II marched upon Scotland from Berwick, with his vast army. 1429. Battle of Patray, in France. The English under Talbot defeated by Joan of Arc, with the loss of 1,500 slain, and 1,000 taken. It was in this conflict that the notable Sir John Falstaff, considering discretion to be the better part of valor, dropped his thirsty lance, and ran away. 1538. Truce for 10 years between Charles V of Germany, and Francis I of France. Hostilities were renewed 3 years after. 1580. The colony of Virginia, discouraged with their losses and various misfortunes, embarked for England. 1588. Robert Crowley, a scholar, preacher and printer, died. One of his principal works was in meter, entitled Pleasure and Pain, Heaven and Hell, Remember These, For and All Shall Be Well. 1602. The fort and storehouse built by Gosnold on Elizabeth Island for a settlement, was abandoned in consequence of discontents arising among those who were to have remained in the country, and the whole company returned to England. The ruins of this ephemeral settlement were seen as late as 1797. 1616. Thomas Bilson, a celebrated English divine, died. He was distinguished for his eloquence as a preacher, and his learning as a theological writer and controversialist. He was one of the 2 final correctors of the present translation of the Bible. 1621. The first duel in New England fought by 2 servants with sword and dagger, both of whom were wounded. For this outrage they were sentenced to lie 24 hours, with their heads and feet tied together. 1633. Charles I, of England, crowned King of Scotland at Holyrood House, by the Archbishop of St. Andrews. 1667. William Raleigh, an English divine, died. He was chaplain to Charles I and II, and also to Bacon, whose works he edited. 1675. Battle of Farbellen. The Elector Frederick William, at the head of 6,000 cavalry, attacked the Swedish invading army under the celebrated Ringel, and gained a complete victory. 1684. The English Court of Chancery gave judgment for the king against the governor and company of Massachusetts. Their charter was declared forfeited, and their liberties were seized into the king's hands. 1697. Richard, Earl of Bellomount, was appointed to succeed Colonel Fletcher as governor of New York. 1718. An earthquake extended through several inland provinces of China, by which the gates and walls of cities were thrown down. The city of Yongning was entirely swallowed up, and several mountains were thrown over a plain to the distance of about 2 leagues. 1741. Francis Pourfort died. A French physician and skillful herbalist. 1749. Ambrose Phillips, an English poet, died. He wrote also for the stage with some success, although his performances were ridiculed by Pope. 1756. Calcutta, in India, taken by Surajadowlah of 146 prisoners put into a dungeon called the Black Hole, 123 were suffocated. 1756. Minorca surrendered to the French by the British General Blakeney. The British had taken it from the Spaniards in 1708. 1757. Battle of Kolin. The Prussians under Frederick II defeated by the Austrians under Count Don, with the loss of 8,000 killed and wounded. Frederick lost his battle through the rash bravery of one of his generals. 1764. Lighthouse at Sandy Hook first put in operation. 1772. Gerard van Sweden, a Dutch physician, died. He settled in Vienna, where he became a distinguished practitioner, and his memory is still held in great veneration by the profession there. 1776. Jean Burgoyne entered St. John's, Canada, the Americans having evacuated it, and burned the fort and barracks. 1779. British West India Island St. Vincent, surrendered to the French under Romain and D'Estaing. 1783. The volcano of Skaptur in Iceland, which had recently become very active, poured out an immense amount of lava, which, taking a new direction, dammed up the streams, and caused great destruction of property and lives. After flowing several days it was precipitated down the cataract of Stapafoss, where it filled a profound abyss, which that great waterfall had been excavating for ages, and thence the fiery flood continued in its course. 1783. Washington announced to the governors of the several states his intended resignation of the command of the army. 1793. British frigate La Nymphe, Captain Pellew, captured French frigate Cleopatra, after an action of 55 minutes. French captain and about 60 of his men killed or wounded. The British lost 25 killed, 27 wounded. This was the first capture made after the declaration of war. 1795. Russian manifesto issued by John Timothy Tomlin, on taking possession of Russian Poland. 1799. Second day's Battle of Trebia. French under MacDonald obliged to retire across the river by the Russians under Suwarrow. 1805. Arthur Murphy, an English dramatic writer of eminence, died. Many of his plays still keep the stage. His translation of Tacitus is also in common use. 1811. Ruth Pierce, the mother of Sir Benjamin Thompson, Count Rumford, died at Baldwin, Maine. 1812. United States declared war against England. 1815. Hostilities ceased between England and the United States throughout the world. 1815. Battle of Waterloo, in the Netherlands. The forces of the two armies are differently stated, but are supposed to have been about 75,000 each. The battle began about noon, and continued with great obstinacy till night, when the French were completely defeated with the loss of more than 30,000 men, 210 cannon, several military chests, and all Napoleon's baggage. The loss of the Allies was probably upwards of 20,000. This great battle gave peace to Europe. 1823. William Coombe, a British author of considerable merit, died. He did not attach his name to his works. 1832. The Duke of Wellington attacked by a mob in the streets of London, the anniversary of his victory at Waterloo. 1835. William Cobbett, an English poetical and miscellaneous writer, died. He was a self-taught and self-made man, who for many years made a conspicuous figure in the politics of England, and was finally elected to Parliament. 1841. The Constitution of the newly constituted state of the Isthmus of Panama publicly swore to, and drive Thomas Hare elected president. 1848. Henry Tooley, a consistent member of the Methodist Episcopal Church, the first Masonic Grand Master in Mississippi, and a son not only but the father of temperance in Natchez, died there, aged 75. 1848. The city of Prague, which had revolted on the 12th, was bombarded and reduced to ruins. 1848. The Austrians defeated by the Piedmontese near Rivoli. 1848. Venice garrisoned by 13,000 Romans. 1848. Karlowitz bombarded. 1854. Henrietta Sontag, one of first lyric artists of the day, died at Mexico, aged about 50. 1855. The Allies made a combined attack upon the Malakoff and Redan towers, at Sebastopol, without success, and with a loss of 56 officers killed, 146 wounded, and 17 prisoners, and 1,694 men killed or missing, and 2,690 wounded.